Did you know that there are 3 great pilgrimages through Christian-dominated countries?
Yeah, and we are about to find out why a mother and daughter put their faith to the test during a journey through Spain.
And this is Chick2Chick.
So here we are. We're coming up
The holiday.
week away. Christmas is here. It's it's a wonderful time of the year. And this podcast is really about a spiritual journey for a mother and daughter, which I think, wow, just so great. You know I like to walk, right?
Oh my gosh.
I walk
Yes.
like 5 to 6 miles every day. It clears my head. I love it. But there's a walk.
And then there's a walk.
And then there's a walk.
Well, I mentioned a pilgrimage. So you can only imagine that it is intense and it is emotional and it is physical and it's demanding and it's all of the things. And it's also incredibly heartwarming at the same time, which is what we're about to find out.
Yeah, it's called the Camino, and it is a 500-mile journey through Santiago, Spain, which brings us to our guests today, mother and daughter, Katie and Lily Gleason. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You two recently went on the Camino. Tell us why you wanted to do this. We're going to start with you, Mom, and then Lily, if you could answer the same question.
Hi, Flora. Hi, Carrie. Thanks for having us. And it's a hard question to answer, I think. I read a book, like 14 years ago about the Camino. I'd never heard of it. And having read the book, I just immediately knew that one day that's what I wanted to do. I knew it, and there was no doubt in my mind. And I just had to wait. I had a young family at the time. And so I waited until finally it was time. And that's what we did.
And Lily, how about you? Why did you want to do this?
Yeah, so I was 6 at the time, and the book was passed to me after my mom read it. So it captured my imagination at a really young age. And it was always, at the time, it was more the excitement of, I want to pack a backpack. But it always was in the back of my mind, even like in Spanish classes in high school, we would talk about it. And it was always something I wanted to do too. And, it just lined up and we decided to go for it.
Okay, so I know nothing about any of this. I really don't, and many of our listeners and viewers might not either. First of all, the book, how you found the book, what is in the book, and then Katie, you said something about it, like when I wanted to do it. Tell us what that it really was. What does the it mean?
The idea of a pilgrimage is what spoke to me. So, I guess a pilgrimage is just a journey with God. And usually the destination would be of a spiritual nature, and in this case, it's a cathedral. And then the name of the place is Santiago, which actually means St. James. And it is the relics, the remains of St. James that are located there in the cathedral, in the city that we all walk to. And there are many routes. The route we took happened to be, it's the most popular route, and it goes across the north of Spain. We actually started in France and went over the Pyrenees and then walked all the way to the cathedral. But what I envisioned was time of solitude and prayer. That's what I was seeking whenever, it wasn't a backpacking trip to me so much as, gosh, imagine that time to just walk and to pray and to be with others who are walking along, all going in the same direction. And yeah, that's kind of what drew me in. And of course, once we got there, it's like everything, I think. Usually you have an idea in your mind of what it'll be, and it plays out differently. And in my case, the Camino was much harder than I thought it would be, but it was also much better than I thought. So.
Well, when you say that it was harder, are you talking about it was harder physically, mentally, emotionally? What part was harder for you?
For me, the physical part, there were little old ladies that were cruising past us, and it was like, how do they do this? They were just, but you know what though, in Europe, a lot of people do walk much more than we do here in the States. So there was that aspect of it. But Lily and I packed a little too much. There's no doubt about that. So we were carrying more than we should have. But I would practice here in Central PA. I would find some steep hills to practice uphill. When I look back now at my training, it was silly. You can't compare what we have here to the Pyrenees. So
how do you
even
train
compare
for something like that?
Yeah,
exactly. But anything worth doing has to have that hard part to it. So it was really hard at parts, but it was more beautiful and more rewarding than I could have. I never expected it to be as wonderful as it was.
So for you, Lily, what kind of an experience? I mean, you're younger, nothing against your walking, Katie, but I would suspect as a young woman, physically, it's easier for you. But what was it like for your own self and then to walk it with your mother?
Yeah, it was such an opportunity that I don't think I realized how blessed we were to have until we got back. And I was like, wow, I just got to spend a month with my mom and really get to know her as a person rather than just as like mom. I learned so much. You have 8 hours of walking to talk, and you do learn stuff about each other that I didn't know. So that was really, really rewarding for me. And then on the physical side, for me, I hadn't trained very much before going. I didn't really know what it would be like. And even as a younger person, it was still very physically demanding. It's 20 pounds on your back and then walking 8 hours a day. You could walk upwards of 15 to 20 miles in a day. So even if you're young, it still hurts.
When you're doing this together, what is the road like you're walking on? What is it like? What are you doing? When do you stop to eat, potty? Like all the things, all the
Where
people.
do you sleep?
Where do you sleep? Explain that whole process.
So we typically would wake up around 5 a.m. because it is Spain in the summer, right? So it's very hot. You want to get most of your walking done before the sun comes up because once the sun hits, it zaps your energy. We would typically eat maybe at 7 for breakfast. There's cafes all along the route, and you can stop there, have a coffee, have a croissant, walk for a couple more hours, stop at another cafe for lunch. And typically we would be done walking by around 2 to 5, somewhere in that range, depending.
Yeah. So as far as accommodations, because it's an ancient pilgrim route, people have been walking this for like over 1,000 years. In the town, towns have sprung up that take care of the pilgrims, and they're hostels, but they're called albergues, or at least that's how Americans, the English speakers, pronounce it. And there's a whole different variety of them, but it's relatively inexpensive to stay. But sometimes you're in a room we slept in rooms with 80 people.
Wow.
Yeah. And then other times we had rooms to ourselves. You wouldn't know. Now, some people plan every step of the way and maybe book things out. We did it a little bit. One of our goals, and just kind of stay with the idea of the pilgrimage and trusting God, we just walked and then decided, okay, this will be the town. And then we would find our accommodation, and it always worked out. It's like an idea of putting trust, just trusting that it'll all work out, and it does.
This is all about spiritual connection. This is walking with, God. It is with connecting with yourself. And I just wonder what that felt like when you reflected on it, and how long did it take for you to really digest your experience once you were back home?
Carrie, the way you said that is, I appreciate it, because people, whenever I first got back, they would ask me about the spiritual part of it. And honestly, I had nothing to say. I thought I'd pray more when I was out there, and things were I thought it would be complete solitude. There's a million distractions wherever you are. It's so easy to be distracted, and out there it was the same. And like you said, unpacked, or I forget the word you used, but basically it did take a while before the spiritual part kind of unfolded. And for me, Lily told me not to get into it because I get a little teary.
We talk about it every day. Every day we have a new Camino thing that we talk about. It genuinely is like, I think it'll be a touching point for a really long time to come because it is just this shared experience that we have. But genuinely, at least once a day, the Camino is a topic of conversation.
This is a really personal thing for both of you. And I'm sure it touched both of you in a way that this is something you want to hold close to your heart, and you don't want to share that. And that's so understandable. Yeah. But what a great experience for the two of you to do this together, to bond, the memories that you're going to have for the rest of your life. If somebody was thinking about doing this, what's your advice? And I'm curious to hear from Katie's perspective and then from a younger person, from Lily's perspective. What's your advice?
Well, for me, when we were walking out there were days that were pretty tough. And Lily and I mean, we had wanted to do this, but we looked at each other like, whoa, what are we doing out here? And then the second question was, and if you didn't believe in God, why would you do this? Like, what on earth would be the purpose of this? So my advice would be to, if it's a pilgrimage that you're seeking, build yourself up in prayer before you go. And like in my case, I asked all my friends and family, what do you need? I will be praying for you out there. And then I didn't realize it, but they reciprocated, and people were praying for us every step of the way. We were able to share our journey a little bit on social media, and it was so enriching to. It strengthened me anyway, knowing, oh my gosh, people are actually praying for Lily and me as we go and do this each and every day, and that was a big deal. So I would that would be my advice, is to, spiritually get ready for it as much as the physical as well.
And Lily, your thoughts?
Yeah, so one of the things they say about the Camino is like it starts the day you decide you're going to do it. So for us, it kind of started 14 years ago because it was always when we do the Camino. So it was always a part of it. But they also see the Camino meets you where you're at. So for me, especially, it came like at a really good time in my life. And there was a lot of other people my age out there just kind of looking for direction, looking for something spiritual, or just trying to figure out their place in the world. And that certainly was the case for me. And I didn't even realize it at the time. And as I was out there, I just kind of felt that. So I would definitely say if there's people, my age or that are contemplating doing it, I think just go in, dive in and do it. Don't be afraid. And it's a really good experience. And I think it's a good way to connect with other people, especially.
And I think it's a wonderful thing that the two of you have done, mother and daughter experience.
It's beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful. Really beautiful. It's gorgeous. And thanks for coming on the podcast and sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't.
There's so many things I want to say, and we don't have enough time. I just think it is incredible. I love that it's a mother-daughter duo that did this, and I think their perspectives are really interesting. Yeah, they both got out of it.
And wow, to think that they walked that long, and then the recovery after it. This is not for the faint of heart. No, this is not a hike. This is not you walking around with Tilly for 5. This is a spiritual journey to make that connection. And they did it. Really cool. Mother and daughter.
It's really cool. Well, we appreciate you tuning in today. Do us a favor, head over to our Chick2Chick YouTube channel, like and subscribe until this chick and I are back to chirp about another topic.